Hola, Mr. Lee here. All right, this practice is going to be on rate of change, which is the same as slope, which is the same as your change in y over change in x. Okay, so um, you can calculate the slope either from a graph, an equation, or a table, right? All three of our representations. So here's our first example on a graph. Um, in order to figure out a change, right, you have to compare a change between 2 points. Okay, so I'm going to label 2 points here on our graph. Most graphs you can find two nice points, right? And by nice, I mean like whole numbers, right? So for example, these 2 points are nice. Notice how from this left point to the right point, it goes up 1 and right 2. Okay, so that's the change in the y, which is up 1, and then change in x, right 2. So this is how we write it in this fraction form. Okay, so this is our answer, 1 over 2, right? It goes up 1 and then right 2. It keeps that same slope or those same changes throughout the whole graph. Okay, and if you want a way to remember like what direction refers to positives and negatives, you just follow the same convention as your graphing, right? Start at your origin. If you go up, those are positive y values. If you go down, negative y values, right? If you go left, that's negative x values. If you go right, that's positive x values. Okay, so some of these first examples I'll go a little bit slower, but once you get more practice with these, you'll be a little bit quicker. Okay, so let's review this just one more time. I chose this point, and I went to this point, right? So that's up 1, right 2. Up refers to a positive 1 in the y direction, and then the right 2 refers to a positive 2 in the x direction. Okay, so change in y over change in x. A lot of students will flip it and think it's alphabetical order, x over y, but in terms of its definition for slope, we want change in y over change in x. Okay, so this answer is 1 over 2. So we'll do 1 backslash 2. Backslash is the same as your fraction bar for Khan Academy. And we'll just do, I think, 3 of each example here. Okay, so what's the slope of this line? Again, I'll pick 2 nice points. The y-intercept seems to be nice. So we're going to pick this y-intercept right there. I'm going to find the next nice point that it hits. Looks like it's right there. Okay, I can keep graphing some nice points just so you guys have a reference, but really you only need to focus on like 2 at a time. Okay, so all those points are fine to figure out your rate of change or your slope for. Let's just choose the y-intercept to the next nice point, which is 1, 1. Okay, so count it with me. Looks like from the y-intercept, I'm going down 3, right 1. Down 3, right 1. Down 3, right 1. So in your fraction, we'll treat it as down 3, which is actually a negative 3, right? Down refers to negative in the y direction. And then we still went right 1, which is a positive 1 in the x direction. Okay, so you can either write it as negative 3 over 1, or if you simplify it, it's a negative 3. Okay, some of these fractions, they'll reduce nicely or simplify nicely, right? We know that negative 3 divided by 1 is the same thing as negative 3. Okay, but there's also nothing wrong with writing it like this. Okay, let's see what Khan Academy accepts. They might actually require us to simplify. Okay, so that one's fine. I changed my mind. I'm actually going to do just 2 examples of each, okay? But you guys can pause, rewind the video as you need, because there are multiple Khan Academy exercises here. So this one's slope in a table. Sorry, let me change that view here. So we're still calculating the rate of change. We're still calculating the slope. It's the same definition. What's the change in y compared to the change in x? The only difference is we have a different representation, okay? So we have just a list of points on a table, but really what we can do is pick 2 points and then calculate the changes in each the y and the x, and then put it into our fraction. Okay, so we're still calculating the same concept here, which is the rate of change. So let me get my pen back here, and I'm not gonna be fancy. I'm just gonna pick the first 2 points. Okay, assuming this is a line, we should be able to pick any 2 points here. Okay, so the change in y. Follow this closely. I'm going to start with my y values. Okay, so I'm going to go from 10 to 8. And then I'm going to go from 31 to 36. Okay, so these 2 points. From 10 to 8, and then 31 to 36. All right, so from 10 to 8, it looks like we just subtract 2. Right, 10 to 8 is minus 2. We call that the change in y. And then from 31 to 36, looks like we are adding 5. All right, so we call that the change in x. So the change in y is a minus 2. The change in x is a plus 5. So we'll actually just go ahead and write negative 2 over 5. Okay, so change in y, negative 2. Change in x, positive 5. Let's see if that's correct. So negative 2 over 5. Here we go. Okay, let's do one more. I'm not going to do anything fancy. I'm just going to pick the first 2 points. Actually, I take that back. We could do the first 2 points. I'm going to skip to the second and third point just because I want to avoid dealing with the negative. Okay, but it'll get you the same answer. You can test it out yourself if you like. I'm just going to try to keep it simple, analyze it a bit. I will choose the second and third point to show you'll get the same answer. Okay, so change in y. I'm going from 2 to 8. The change in y is going to be a plus 6. Right? Change in y is a plus 6. Change in x is a plus 1. So every time the y value changes by plus 6, the x value changes by a plus 1. Okay? So put it all together. Change in y is 6. Change in x is 1. 6 over 1. Okay? 6 over 1, same thing as 6 divided by 1. You can simplify to a 6. Let's see what happens when I enter Khan Academy. 6 over 1. All right, I'm going to keep it as the fraction for now. They accept it. Okay, so that's slope in a table. The next Khan Academy exercise is actually very, very similar, but instead of organizing 2 points on a table, they just list the 2 points. But we know that a table is just an organization of points, right? So if you wanted to, right, you can just do this. You can just like sketch your own table, right? If this helps you see it, just go x comma y. I'm finding the slope between these 2 points, which is negative 7, comma negative 2. And then I'm going to a negative 6 to a 7, like that. Right? You could easily just do that. All right? And then you're figuring out, oh, change in y is going to be negative 2 to 7. That's going to be what? A plus 9, right? I have to add 9 to get from negative 2 to 7. Change in x to get from negative 7 to negative 6. Be careful with your negatives. Look at your number line if you need to. That should be a plus 1, right? Negative 6 is actually a bigger number than negative 7. So change in y is plus 9. Change in x is a plus 1. Multiple choice. Which one's the correct answer? Looks like we have a simplified version, right? If you do 9 divided by 1, you get a 9. Okay? So don't forget, change in y over change in x. So don't flip it up. Don't flip it over with the x over y. We want y over x. So we want the option D here. 9 divided by 1 simplifies to a 9. Okay. Okay. This next one, same thing. If you want to, you can draw your table. I'm going to choose not to draw the table to show you how you can also kind of visualize it just from these list of points. But it's the same thing. Change in y over change in x. Okay. So let me go to my y values first. My first y value is a 6. Second y value is a negative 9. So how do you get from a 6 to a negative 9? So you're starting at a positive 6. You're going all the way down to negative 9. You have to subtract 15, it looks like. Okay? So that's going to be a subtract 15 for your change in y. And then for your change in x, focusing on the x coordinates, negative 9 to a negative 6. That looks like we have to add 3. Okay? Add 3 there. Okay, so this one I will write all together, right? Change in y is a negative 15, and then we get a change in x of a positive 3. So simplify it, right? Negative divided by positive is a negative, and then a 15 divided by 3 is a 5. So we do need to simplify on this one. We should get a negative 5, which is option C. Okay, so we'll go ahead and click option C, and we're good.